Is PRP a drug when it's activated? So I recently published a LinkedIn post and I asked this question. And surprisingly, I got a lot of different opinions. And today I'm going to share that with you guys. Okay. So before we start, I actually want to say that I'm not a doctor. I'm not a researcher. I'm not a scientist nor an attorney. And this is not legal or medical advice. Okay. I'm just a random guy that loves regenerative medicine. I have a passion for it, and I just want to share accurate information. Okay, so essentially, what is PRP? So PRP stands for platelet-rich plasma. It's made from your own blood. Okay, doctors draw your blood, they spin it in a centrifuge, and then they collect the platelet-rich part of it and they re-inject it into your body. So essentially, used in sports medicine and aesthetics a lot. Okay, and why do doctors activate PRP? So essentially, when you activate the PRP, the platelets release growth factors, which are the proteins that help signal healing. Okay. Activation jumpstarts the clotting cascade, turning PRP from liquid into a gel or fibrin matrix that's easier to apply or inject. So again, it's used in orthopedics and in aesthetics. Okay, so the common activators include calcium chloride, calcium gluconate, or thrombin. Okay, but adding them changes the product chemically, which can alter how the FDA classifies it. So who regulates this stuff? Okay, so the FDA. So the FDA is the agency that keeps our medical products safe. They essentially oversee drugs, biologics like cells and tissues, medical devices, blood and blood products, and combination products when two of these are mixed. Okay. So what are the FDC, DNC, and PHS acts? So essentially, these are two big laws that give the FDA its power. Okay. So the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, FDC Act, governs drugs and devices safety, labeling, and approval before sale. So PHS, which is also known as Public Health Service, governs biologics, things made from living cells like blood, vaccines, and gene therapy. So essentially, PRP and other biologics fall under the PHS Act side of the house. Okay. Next is the Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research. Okay. So it's essentially a branch of the FDA that regulates blood and blood components, cell and tissue-based products known as HCTPs, vaccines, gene and cell therapies. Okay, so essentially that's the biologic boss. Okay, if your treatment involves human cells or blood products, CBER is usually the regulator in charge. Okay, so there's actually something that's called the same surgical procedure rule. Okay, and why this doesn't apply to PRP. So essentially, if a doctor takes a tissue or blood from you, puts it back into you during the same procedure, that's called the same surgical procedure, exception under 21 CFR 1271-15B. That's the section. What this means is that no extra FDA registration for HCTPs is necessary. And as long as the material isn't changed much, which is considered minimally manipulated. Okay. But here's the key point. PRP is actually not considered an HCTP. It's a blood product. So this exception doesn't technically apply to PRP, though FDA usually uses similar logic when evaluating same procedure autologous blood use. So the question is activating PRP a drug? Okay. So PRP is used as is. Autologous means coming from your own self. Same patient, same procedure. It's generally treated like a blood product, not a drug. But when you add activators like calcium chloride, calcium gluconate, or thrombin, you've actually changed the product's chemistry. That's called more than minimal manipulation. The FDA may now view it as a biologic or a drug, especially if you're claiming it treats a disease like arthritis. Well, that gets into the marketing side of things. Obviously, you can't make claims unless it's FDA approved. Okay, so a quick recap. When PRP is autologous same procedure unaltered, FDA may see it as a blood product, which is low regulation. Okay. When PRP is activated with calcium or thrombin, FDA may see it as possibly a biologic or a drug. Okay. When PRP is marketed or treated to heal a diseases, that's considered high risk because it's not FDA approved, right? So claims under drug biologic rules. Okay. Now, what's the takeaway? So essentially, PRP starts as simple, just your blood. okay? But once you add something to it, or you store it, or you make medical claims, you may cross the line into the FDA biologic or drug territory, okay? So something to keep up with. So I actually found this study, and it's called the U.S. Definition, Current Use, and FDA Stance on Use of Platelet-Rich Plasma in Sports Medicine. And I actually want to focus on this one line here that it says, finally, despite PRP being exempted, the language in 21 CFR 1271 has caused some recent concern over activated PRP. However, to date, the FDA has not attempted to regulate activated PRP. Clinicians using activated PRP should be mindful of these concerns and continued to stay informed. So this is the link right here. And then this is another study as well that I actually thought it was very helpful. So this study here, they actually put, there's 3 different categories, okay? Category 1, which is low risk. Category 2, which is low risk product as well. Well, low risk would be category 1, I'm sorry. Category 2 is low risk, and then category 3 is higher risk. So PRP essentially is lowest risk product. Okay, and if you can see here, it has no HCTP oversight, even though PRP is not considered an HCTP. Okay, so essentially here you can read this paragraph right here, but products in the group are those considered to be low risk, and although still regulated as HCTP, do not require pre-market approval. So that means for PRP. So even though it's not a HCTP, it may be regulated as an HCTP. Okay, so I thought that was pretty cool. So this is the post that I published on LinkedIn, and all I said was, did you know the FDA may reclassify PRP as a drug when activated with calcium gluconate or thrombin? PRP is generally considered minimally manipulated, but when prepared and re-injected without additives. But according to the FDA's guidance on HCTP and peer-reviewed research, the moment you add calcium gluconate, calcium chloride, thrombin, or any other activator, the preparation may be deemed more than minimally manipulated and potentially reclassified as a drug or biologic, essentially. This was a nice picture that I took and I posted. Okay, I got some really good engagement. And I kind of wanted to share the opinions that I got from different medical doctors. Don Buford here said, PRP is not regulated under the HCTP section of the FDA code, which is correct. To be clear, PRP is not considered an HCTP, and determining regulatory status has nothing to do with minimally manipulation or homologous use. PRP is just simply not regulated in that section of the code. PRP does not require a section 351 versus 361 determination. Autologous number 3, Donnie Buford. Dr. Paul Tortland here later said, that point being made, you are absolutely right that PRP does not fall under the stated regulations. Furthermore, adding anything to PRP in the terms of combining biologics or adjuvants, such as calcium chloride, applies on the manufacturing side, not on the clinical side. That's pretty good to know. This guy, Zayed Hamandi, said, I wish you could stop spouting nonsense. This is not how the FDA and medical device work at all. Okay, cool. Then from here, a gentleman, a doctor named Jeffrey Piscirillo, he said, I actually interviewed Peter Marks, and I actually didn't know who Peter Marks was, and I looked him up, and Peter Marks is a physician who formerly served as the director of the FDA Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research. Okay. And I guess he had a podcast with him, and he asked him the same exact question. If adding calcium chloride to PRP violates the manipulation rule, and he said it did not. And there was no plan to reclassify PRP as a drug in any way, shape, or form. And then I replied saying, that's how everyone sees it, including myself. However, a colleague mentioned it to me, and I decided to do some of the research of my own. It's a very nuanced topic, for sure. We can all agree that the FDA considers it low risk and it's autologous. So this is why it's not on their radar. Thanks for your input, Dr. Piscirillo. So essentially, to me, right, this is my opinion, that the FDA essentially has, higher risk products such as birth tissue products, exosomes, which is what they, classify that is. So obviously they're going to focus mostly on that side, right? It makes total sense. So this guy, Zayed Hamandi, said, during our submission meeting, we asked the same question and the answer was a solid no. We even asked the question if we produce our ACDA, which is an anticoagulant, would make it a combination product, and the answer was still no. I know some PRP products, they has ACDA anticoagulant in the kit and you can add that. So I'm not sure how that goes. And essentially, Dr. Jeffrey Piscirillo, I would love for you to actually share that podcast that you did with Peter Marks. I mean, not only for me, but for the entire industry. I think that actually would help us all, right? And kind of, figure out all the answers for these, from all these questions that we have, right? So essentially, Zayed continues saying that he's waiting on the FDA for a resubmission into the manufacturer and all that. Please share with us, Zayed. That would be awesome, right? We all want to know the answer. So then Brian over here said, Eduardo, I love to see a reference, especially since blood is not an HCTP. I agree. It's not considered an HCTP. And Dr. Brian Schipple, he said, I add articles to my PRP on a daily basis as indicated by needs of my patients. It's not an HCTP. That's awesome. I know a lot of physicians that use, that activate their PRP, and that's good. I mean, do no harm, right? So if we're helping patients, that's all that matters to me. So I responded to Dr. Schipple here and I said, correct, it's not an HCTP. However, the FDA may still decide that we created a new biologic. If we add or mix things that change its biology, and I gave an example here, it's like exosomes, extracellular vesicles, right? They are not considered an HCTP, but still considered a drug. And also like some peptides, right? They are not an HCTP, but they may reconsider it a drug. That's how I'm interpreting it. And that's, what I'm pretty much saying. And then Dr. Katz here, he pretty much said, Dr. Paul Tortland, Schipple, I wouldn't dismiss lightly Oscar's post. The assumption by many physicians regarding their home-based protocol is in many instances baseless and has no solid legal and regulatory confirmation. I can witness that we had this discussion with the FDA. Calcium and thrombin are drugs. Application of drugs to PRP does make it a drug. For that reason, none of PRP kits are allowed to be offered with these activators. So using it internally, it's our own risk and liability, and not necessarily regulatory compliant procedure. It's not on a radar, but it's a norm. And I agree. I see it often. I see it in courses and trainings, and I see it often. The law didn't change. The perception and the FDA focus is. That's what I said earlier, right? I said earlier that, the FDA has, higher risk items like exosomes, tissues, and other products, right? So essentially, PRP indeed is under CFR 21 Part 640, not 1271. However, additives change it. Okay. And so essentially, this is the end of my discussion and my presentation. What do you guys think, right? I know PRP is used widely and especially in activation. And I just want to hear what you guys think. All right. Hope you guys found this video helpful. And I'm looking forward to meeting you guys more. And I actually am going to be doing more of these videos regarding PRP, regarding birth tissues, regarding compliance, regulatory. We're building some courses. If you want more information, you can go to www.regenmedacademy.com, and we have trainings, we have online courses, and we will be adding more as we grow. But anyway, I hope you guys have a beautiful day, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next video. Adios.